We've covered many horrible PCs over the years, so I figured, why not find 3 excellent PC ads to review in this one? One from Orlando, Florida, one from Atlanta, Georgia, and one from Los Angeles, California. All are still publicly available as of time of filming, by the way, so maybe, just maybe, you can snag one of these for yourself if you're in the market. Let's dive in. Stay with me. The new A115 air cooler from Corsair packs 2 AF140 Elite fans into a dual tower array with 6 beefy 6mm heat pipes for powerful heat transfer. Pre-applied XTM70 thermal paste and slim slide and lock fan mounts add to the ergonomics, while 90 nickel-plated cooling fins and an overhauled retention system ensure excellent cooling efficiency. The A115 supports the latest sockets for both Intel and AMD and ships with Corsair's 5-year warranty for peace of mind. Learn more by clicking the link below. Kicking things off right away with our $900 PC ad in Decatur, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. You'll find that the PC market by and large has cooled quite a bit as of late, and many ads similar to this one have been popping up all over the country. Now, if you're an international viewer, I would appreciate it if you let me know in the comments below how your local market's faring, because they all tend to vary a bit. This ad's titled RTX 3070 Ti Ryzen 9 Gaming PC. It's pretty straight to the point and listed for $900 USD. His photos are also excellent, some with the rig turned on, some not, and great angles. He even included a couple of photos in Task Manager. I generally don't mind this, though a screen capture in this instance would probably be more ideal. It reads, custom gaming PC I built from the past parts that I've upgraded from, 1440p high frame rate gaming beast. Specs below, it sports a Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core processor, RTX 3070 Ti, 32 gigs of DDR4, plenty of storage, an okay power supply for being honest, and a great case. Cooling is a bit lackluster in the Hyper 212, but I'd still prefer this over, the stock cooler, even though there's nothing really wrong with the stock cooler. His background message at the bottom is also pretty nice. He says he loves building PCs for himself and friends of his, and he's been doing it for the past 8 years. This PC is no slouch and comes with everything updated and wiped clean for you. Don't be shy, hit me up, no trades unless it's in exchange for an RTX 4070 Ti Super specifically. I really like this. I think the description is extremely concise, it's clear, and his spec list is very, very specific. I don't really see any fluff at all, and this is exactly how I like to detail my own ads, whether it be for PCs or really anything else. Now, when it comes to valuation, it can be a bit tough to put an exact dollar amount on certain things. I mean, some of these components are like several generations old, and it's not that there's anything wrong with that, it's gonna mean that it's gonna be a bit difficult to price things accordingly. For example, the Ryzen 9 3900X, it's technically still being sold new today on Amazon. I would not be paying that price, or anywhere close to that price, for a new 3900X, especially when you compare it to its newer 5900X counterpart. This thing's like $100 cheaper. And that's exactly what we've chosen here, though don't worry, we'll also factor in eBay sale prices for the exact components listed throughout this video. So when it's all said and done, a comparable build today would cost you somewhere in the ballpark of $1,200 US new. Your CPU would end up a bit better overall if you went for the 5900X, but by and large, you'd have a similar performing rig. If we take into account exact components, however, this price drops to around $1,000 USD. If we factor in, again, the used components, namely it's gonna be the CPU and the GPU. That makes his $900 asking price regardless pretty fair, in my opinion. There might even be additional wiggle room given our current economic climate, always worth a shot. I don't see anything wrong with maybe offering, say, $800 on this machine and going from there, especially if you're offering cash and can meet up ASAP. Those are always tasty words. Overall, I'm a big fan of what I see here, and I'm frankly a bit shocked it's been listed on Craigslist of all places. Next up, a quote, affordable MSI AMD gaming PC. Orlando, Florida, out of my hometown. And this price really intrigued me. Anything sub $400, right? $375 for this thing? It's gonna catch my eye. It's gonna catch anyone's eye if they're in the market. And it's usually gonna mean one of 3 things. Either it's too good to be true, or it's too old, or it actually is a good deal. And I think that's exactly what we found here. So the rig itself isn't crazy powerful or anything. Of course, it's not gonna be for the price. And sure, the description, as you'll see shortly, could be a bit more concise, but even if we assume the bare minimum, there's still a deal to be had. Great 1080p gaming PC with 8 gigs of VRAM, specs and game benchmarks below. Sale is for the tower and power cable only. Located in the UCF area, that's a college if you don't know what that is, will meet nearby for sale, new power supply and SSD. Okay, so far so good, straight to the point, which I think is an excellent tactic. He's got a Ryzen 5 6-core in here, but he doesn't specify the model, and this is where I wish he'd been more specific. All this really tells me is that you're hiding the model because it's either cheap or old, or in this case, probably both. So I'm going to assume that we're talking about a base Ryzen 5 1600, first gen Ryzen, because if it was anything better, you would have clarified, and there's my logic. He goes on to include a short list of benchmarks, which I don't generally mind, but again, you kind of have to take these with like a big heap of salt. We can't be sure of how each of these titles was tested, if numbers were fudged a bit, if they were mixed up during data collection, etc. This is why I encourage our own viewers to watch multiple reviews of the same product before making a purchase decision. Never trust just one individual, rely on a collective group of generally reliable sources. What I'd advise in this situation is to literally look up this hardware combo online and see what frame rates they're getting on average. And you're not going to get exact numbers. And of course, there will be tiny variances depending on clock speed and the environment, etc. And also drivers and the game version being run. There's so many variables, but it's just stuff to consider and stuff I would definitely do. I wouldn't just take this person at his word. The photos look fine. I'd like to see maybe a shot of the inside without it powered on, maybe some close-ups, but I don't really see any qualms here. And if we price everything out in PC Part Picker, we arrive at a figure a decent percent higher than the asking price. I know this doesn't look like a huge difference, but when you consider how low the price is to begin with, it's actually a fairly high percent swing. The 1600 is purchased used in this list, while everything else is new. You can see these are buying all day for about 40 or 50 bucks. I wouldn't advise buying a standalone used power supply, by the way, or storage drive for reasons we've discussed in the past. But if we also assume the graphics card was being purchased used, then we'd be awfully close to that $375 ask. But still, I think there may be 25 to 50 bucks of extra wiggle room to help out the buyer. And between you and me, you can take advantage of the seller's lack of detail in his parts list to reinforce your counter. Hey, look, I don't really know what I'm getting here, so I'm not going to give you full price because stuff's a little vague intentionally. Possibly. Despite the system being fairly old and weak though, AM4 is still plenty versatile. In case you were wondering, the platform sets you up for pretty much like ample upgrade headroom down the line on the CPU side of things. So I don't really see a reason why this ad should be avoided on that basis alone. It would honestly make for a great entry-level gaming PC for someone on a tight budget or just entering high school or college. The last ad on our list is out of Los Angeles, California, and it's recently been marked down from $900 to $600. I love that it shows us that because it shows us how determined he is to sell it. I think he realized he might have been a bit high on the price, and 600 bucks you'll see is actually a pretty enticing price. Newly built gaming PC, built with new and used parts, great for playing games in 1080p and 1440p, BIOS and GeForce drivers updated. He includes a few benchmarks, refer to what we said earlier in the video about those, and he proceeds to list his specs. So he's got an Intel Core i7-10700K, Z490 motherboard, 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance DDR4, a 970 EVO 1TB SSD, an ID Cooling 240mm AIO, Asus TUF Mid-Tower, and a Gigabyte 850-watt PSU. Revision 2, in case you're curious. I don't think these blow up the way that the first revision did. And right away, we see plenty of photos in the listing, a few good angles, a shot of the front, and even photos of the screen running certain games and benchmarks. Again, I'd prefer screenshots, but it's nice to see extra attention to detail for those who are curious about performance. And I suppose on the subject of, reliability, it actually wouldn't be a bad idea to take a photo of a screen. I suppose these would be a bit more difficult to doctor, to kind of like manipulate in programs like Photoshop. So maybe I retract my previous statement a little bit. So if the description is excellent and the photos line up, how does this rig fare in the pricing department? In comes PC Part Picker, and recall, he's lowered this price by $300 at the onset, and that's what's really done the trick here. If we assume a used Core i7, a Z490 motherboard, not the same one, but close, and an RTX 2060, the price you could build this for today comes out to roughly $800, making his $600 ask a very fair price indeed. At this point, if I was in the market, I'd be content, honestly, giving him exactly what he's asking for it, assuming everything else checks out. But it wouldn't hurt to counter a smidge lower, just, sheerly out of principle. Again, discretionary spending has been tightening up as of late, and it's very possible that falling demand could drive prices of used rigs like these even lower in the near future. Only time will tell. Thank you so much for watching this one. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of these, and be sure to stick around for the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.